All right. Well, my name is Billy Harvey. So good evening, everyone. I am a regional coordinator for BHA here in Western New York. So Region 9 is I'm the events coordinator for this area, one of three. I grew up in the Rochester Finger Lakes area. Now live out in Western New York, actually in Wyoming County. Grew up in a hunting family. Been hunting now. Been a tag holder and a hunter for almost 20 years. I'm 32 years old. A lot of small game, big game, especially in the last few years. Really picked up with the big game, especially after college. So what I really drove me to BHA was my first trip out west hunting, and it really opened my eyes to the amount of public land and opportunity there was out west. And when I came home, I really was fired up and excited to get involved and do more locally here with public lands and get more people enjoyed or out there enjoying it and encouraging them to do so. So that's kind of how I got involved here with BHA in this community. And I'm excited to talk to you guys tonight about tree stand and tree stand safety and how that all works. And I'm also, if you are not familiar, I have a New York-based hunting podcast called Log Talk with Curtain Ear Outdoors. We have social media on Facebook and Instagram, but also have the podcast out there on all major platforms. So we do a lot of talk about all things outdoors in New York and the Northeast. So feel free to check that out too if you'd like to know more about what I'm up to. So thanks and look forward to talking with you. Glenn?
No,
Ooh,
still nothing.
Yeah, we
I
can
hear
hear
you.
you.
Here a little
Hear
bit.
you.
Yeah.
We hear
Can
you.
you?
Yeah.
There you are.
All right. Let's try it with these speakers in. Let me
All right, Ted.
All right. Yeah, my name's Ted Krieger. I'm a Region 6 event coordinator here for the New York chapter of Backcountry Hunters and Anglers. Sounds cliche, but, I've been an outdoorsman, hunter, and angler all my life. My dad took me hunting when I was 4 years old on our first turkey hunt together. And, since I was old enough to legally hunt, I've been doing it, hunting and fishing, turkeys, deer, at every stage throughout, a New York hunter's life. I guess when you're 14, I was able to go bow hunting. So I did that. 16, then with a gun. After college, I moved across the country, lived in Missouri for a little bit. And then my wife and we moved to Idaho for a few years. And similar to what Billy was saying, that's kind of where I really, my eyes were open to public land and specifically backcountry hunters and anglers. What drove me to BHA, though, was I can't remember the House resolution, but there was a bill that Jason Chaffetz had proposed to sell back a lot of land. This was in Utah, and I figured that was a good time to, I guess, put my money where my mouth was and at least get a membership. I think I got a 3-year membership, and that came with a hat, so that was kind of cool. Been a member ever since. Moved back to New York a couple of years ago, and similar to what Billy was saying too, kind of wanted to share my experiences and help out with the New York chapter. So tonight I'm going to talk a little bit about how to effectively get to your spot and how to stay comfortable with some gear. Going to walk you through a little bit of stuff to hopefully have a good hunt. So look forward to talking to you again.
All right, I'll try it again.
Perfect.
Welcome everybody. I'm Glenn Stratton. Currently, I'm the chair of the New York Backcountry Hunters and Anglers. I've been hunting here in New York for, I'd say, real steady probably the last 10 years or so. And what brought me to Backcountry Hunters and Anglers is my career was in conservation. When I retired, just kind of looking for something to get into. And my neighbor, he was in Backcountry Hunters and Anglers, and I joined, and it's a real good group of folks that are kind of like-minded, conservation oriented, and it's all about the wildlife and just having a good time and respecting the what we have here. So tonight I'm going to be talking to you on some alternatives, still hunting, blinds, ground blinds, and maybe a little bit of scouting and wildlife observation. So, Krista.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. My name is Krista, and I am the Region 3 Volunteer Coordinator with New York Backcountry Hunters and Anglers. And I personally am what would be called an adult onset hunter, or what some people would like to call a fashionably late hunter. I didn't grow up hunting. I didn't grow up with anybody in my family teaching me or bringing me into this. But I have been an outdoors woman for most of my adulthood, first traveling in the backcountry, rock climbing and mountaineering. And then I got into doing more tracking and primitive skills and foraging. And it all kind of culminated with hunting and putting all of that together to be able to procure my own food from the landscape and have like a deeper relationship with the land. And so the commonality in all of those things for me was the land and being able to have access to the land. So luckily for me, when I was very early on in my journey as a hunter, I came across backcountry hunters and anglers, and I instantly felt like I had a group of people who understood my relationship with the land and why it was so important. Advocating for the land on both like the state and federal level in really big ways so that we can all have access to it. So we can enjoy doing these things that we love in the outdoors. And that can be anything from hunting and fishing to climbing and mountain biking. Like, we all own this land and trust as citizens of the United States. So I was lucky to get involved with BHA pretty early on, met some really fantastic folks, and have just been completely sucked into the vortex. So real quick, before I get started on the presentation tonight, I thought we'd run a quick poll for especially the folks who are on the Zoom. How many people here are already backcountry hunters and angler members versus non-members? So take a minute and fill out the poll and tell us if you're already a member or not. I think in a minute here, we will get some feedback and find out where folks are at. Yes, all right, there we go. 69% of folks here are already BHA members. All right, 31% of folks are not. You 31% people, like, wait till the end. We've got there's a cool membership drive that we have going on this month in September. I'll tell you a little bit more about that later. But there's a cool little promo just for you. In fact, actually, I'm kind of jealous that I'm already a member, because there's something that only you can get as a new member if you join this month. And I'm kind of like, what about the rest of us who are already members? We want cool stuff too. So anyhow, incentive to join later. And so with that, I'm just going to take over screen sharing here, and we are going to talk about what we got going on tonight. So last week, if you got a chance to attend with us, we did the first in this 4-part series of the virtual Learn to Hunt series. And the first session focused on finding places to hunt. So mostly those guys covered e-scouting with like Onyx Hunt, Google Earth, looking at the DEC website so that you can find what places are actually places that you can hunt. And so tonight, what we're going to do is we're going to pick up kind of where those guys left off and talk about, once you've found a piece of public land that you want to try and hunt, how are you going to zero in on where the critters are, how you're going to get into position to actually hunt them and set yourself up for getting the shot. That's what we're going to be focusing on tonight. As you can see from this slide, we'll be talking about next week getting the shot and things to consider in terms of your weaponry, ballistics, all those good things, shot placement. And then in the final week on the 24th, we'll be talking about, if you're successful, you managed to fill a tag, how you're going to get it home. So, field dressing, quartering, all that kind of good stuff. How do you get this animal that you managed to harvest home? So we're going to start by talking about where you can find critters once you're in the woods. So last week you learned about finding land that you can actually hunt on. this week, where are you going to find the critters on that land? So while you have your mapping software open, or this could be a paper map, this could be Onyx, I'm using Onyx here, it could be HuntStand or whatever app. This is the topo feature, the topo layer. And this is going to tell you about topo features that you can use to zero in on where critters are most likely to be. So when I'm looking at a piece, one of the first things I might look at is where the swamps are, where the low-lying areas. You know, deer love to hang out in these swamps because nobody wants to go in them. So they're a safe place to bed down and hide. If you're a waterfowl hunter, definitely look for this, this sort of feature on, I'm going to switch over to my pointer. I just realized I had one. You definitely want to look for this sort of feature on a map. Some other things to look for in terms of topo features to find critters are saddles. So this is a high point here, and this is the high point of this ridge. This saddle becomes an easy place for animals to cross over because it's a little bit lower instead of going up high over this. Oxbows or points. This doesn't have a huge water course on this particular map, but an oxbow would be a bend in the river that is so tight it almost like bends back on itself and creates a almost an island, but not quite. And deer love to bed, and points are the same way, but maybe not quite as cut off. Deer love to bed down on those because the water around them actually helps. It's like a moat. It creates some safety, and there's really only one land route in that they can monitor a lot more easily. So those are really like gold mine places to check out. And fingers would be sort of like ridges that come down or maybe even kind of come together off of a mountain. So like shoulders that kind of point downward, especially if this kind of came together with a couple other features. So those are just some things on your topo that you might want to drop a pin on to go check out. I will look at those features, I'll put a pin on them, and then I'll go to the land and I want to actually get boots on the ground and look at it. So just seeing these topo features aren't necessarily going to tell you that there's deer there. You want to actually go get your boots on, look for signs. So a lot of the sign we're looking for, the main thing is food cover bedding. So bedding being the super thickest tangle of stuff you can find that is going to provide a lot of safety. You know, deer aren't going to want to be, I'm talking primarily about deer, but a lot of any critters really don't like being caught out in the open. It's not a safe place. So, you know, you want to look for cover, a lot of thick woods that help them hide and escape predators. And then of course, food sources, and they'll be moving pretty much between all of these on a regular basis. And so you want to kind of intercept them on the trails between them. These over here are some rubs. If you've not ever seen these are specifically marks that sign that bucks leave when they're rubbing their antlers along these. And they're also rubbing not just their antlers to get like the velvet off and stuff, but they're also rubbing these like periorbital scent glands along there, like right above their eye. And so this becomes like a scent post or a sign marker that's sort of like, this is my territory, I was here, kind of thing. And so it's a good indication where a buck is, and he'll come along these, sometimes the same rub line year after year. So when you see this, like definitely mark it as a place to start looking for bucks. Just some deer tracks in case anybody here has never seen what that looks like before. And this over here is a scrape. This was a buck that I've been hunting in the last two years. But they will often have a tree here that's about like eye level, our eye level, and they will rub their antlers and their periorbital scent glands on this. And he'll actually often lick this, and you'll see like a branch that's kind of like broken off and hanging down that he licks. So he's getting like his saliva there, he's getting his like scent glands all over the place. And then he'll scrape this out with his front paws and then pee in it as a way to basically claim that entire area. This is like his posted, this is my land, all the ladies that live here are mine kind of thing. And then does do come along and they will kind of scent this and check out and see who's in the neighborhood and if they think he's cute from the way he smells. And other little younger bucks will come by and check this out and see about the health status of that buck, if it's somebody that they maybe want to challenge or not challenge. So these scrapes, if you see them and you come across them in the woods, are really good places to look for and to set up on. They're particularly active like pre-rut. They'll come by and freshen these up every couple of days. So every couple of days or so before they start getting, while they're still getting wound up to chase does and estrus. Once the does start coming in hot, like they forget about those and start doing other things. And this, I think, should play here or not. All right. Sorry about that, folks. This is a really lovely video, if you could see it, of this buck making this scrape. And for some reason, it won't let me play the video now. But that just shows you he comes into this and scrapes and rubs his head, and then, you know, you almost get to see him pee in it, but not quite. And lastly, real quick, I'm just gonna point out that while you're looking for your spot and you're determining how to get in there, you wanna always keep in mind hunting the wind. It's super important, even with all the scent lock and cover scent and all that kind of stuff. Know what direction the prevailing winds are in your area. Use a wind checker frequently to make sure that you know what's happening with the wind, like locally around you. You can either get those like little squeeze bottles that have like a white kind of like talcum powder thing that squeezes up, or this right here is a milkweed pod. And these are available wherever right now. You can go and just like harvest a bunch of these and have plenty of your own wind check with these, and just throw a couple things of fluff up in the air and check on what the wind is doing. And Ted's going to talk more about this in a minute, but you always want to try and find a way to approach upwind so that you're not putting your scent onto an area that you might want to hunt. So that may mean that when you look at your map, you know, you see what the shortest distance is from point A to point B. You may need to take a longer, more circuitous route in order to approach upwind. So be prepared for that when you're getting into the woods from the get-go. Deer will often bed and forage with the wind coming at them too. So if you don't want to keep the wind like completely in your face, because the deer might have it coming in their face and then you're just looking at a deer's behind. So you want to sometimes find a strategy that allows the wind to be coming somewhat at you, but also coming at the deer too. So they feel like they're safe and they may be getting early warning of potential predators, but wherever your smell is actually going is going away from where the deer may be trying to move upwind. And that's a little complicated to get into at this point in time, but if you ever have questions about that, you know, hit me up. But real quick, before I throw this over to Ted, can we get the next poll and just see how many people are new hunters who just took their hunter safety this year for the first time? Do we have that poll coming up? There we go. All right. Cool. All right. So 19% of folks took it this year. Congratulations. Welcome. Welcome to the wonderful new world of hunting. I hope this series is really helpful for you. All right. I'm going to throw it over to Ted, who's going to give you a little show and tell of some helpful things to be taking into the woods for you on your approach.
Yeah, thanks, Krista. Yeah, as Krista had mentioned, one of the last things, well, first off, I'd like to just kind of briefly explain the goal here. I want to talk to you about how to effectively get to the spot. You know, Krista just showed you a couple ways to find that spot. So one of the last things she mentioned was wind, and it's important to have the wind in your face. You know, the deer might be bedded, and I think scent is probably their number one sense in terms of safety and stuff. So if they smell you, they're gone. And as you're approaching your spot, you don't want to be busting them. So Chris had mentioned it there. Sometimes that means you got to take a different route. A couple things to consider though is in taking that route, you probably want to know where some other hunters are. And sometimes you can run into them at the trailhead. And I think it's a good idea. What I like to do, if I'm at the trailhead on public land and I see someone, I approach them, introduce myself, and ask them where they're headed. And then based on their answer, if that's your spot, then you're getting another spot. I guess you could probably make, start the conversation with telling them where you're going to go. But, if they tell you where they're going, go to a different area. You just want to be courteous and you want to be safe, right? Another thing to consider is in New York, shooting light is sunrise to sunset. I think in other states, it's sometimes a half hour before. So unless you're waterfowl hunting, it might be a half hour before, but check the regs on that. So with that being said, if you're deer hunting and you want to get in the morning, give yourself some extra time to get there. I like to get to the stand and give myself enough time to set up and sit in my tree stand and essentially let the woods come alive, so to speak. Let the light show up and everything like that. If you can't play the wind, if you're moving, if there's another hunter or if it's just not going to work out, scent killer, a scent elimination spray, cover up scents, these are really going to help you. Because like I said, sometimes it's just not an option, whatever the reason may be. There's literally a product out there called Scent Killer. It works. I've been using it for years with really great luck. They also make a couple cover scents too. They make these little discs that I'll show you in a little bit that you can put on your clothes. They smell like dirt or, apples, pine, whatever you might want to use. Another trick that I've used in the past that actually has been pretty effective might be a little gross, but I'll spray some Fox Urine on my boots. And what that will do is I've actually seen deer walk right through there and actually smell the spot where I've walked. And what I assume they're thinking is a fox has just been through here, recently enough to leave its scent behind. And if a fox went through, or if another animal went through, it's probably relatively safe. They're a little calmer. So Fox Urine can be a good tip. If you bring it with you, I'd recommend getting a Ziploc bag to put it in because it's pretty gross. Okay, with that being said, now I want to talk a little bit about some stuff that I bring with me. I'm going to switch my phone around here real quick. But what I want to do is talk about the gear that I took last year. It's opening day in November, and in New York, we could have any type of weather. But last year, it was 16 degrees where I was hunting. So I think that's a good scenario to talk about the different gear that I took. So let me switch my camera around real quick. Okay, here we go. So starting off, I just want to mention that key is layers, in my opinion. So I start out with a pretty lightweight sock. This is just a merino sock that I'll wear. Merino long john base layer. This is a merino t-shirt. And then I'll put this merino zip long sleeve over it. I like the zip because you can unzip it or zip it up. Obviously, it just helps regulate heat a little bit more. And when you're walking in, especially with a longer distance, heat regulation is pretty key. After that, I'll just throw on an outer layer of pants. This is a pant by First Light called their Canabs. I don't think they make them anymore, but they're pretty durable. They're fairly warm. They're not really water resistant or anything, but they work really well for just kind of walking around, getting into your stand. And even when it's chilly, I'll still wear these and still be able to regulate my temperature pretty well and not really sweat before I get to my stand. On top of that, I really like their Chama hoodie. It's got a hood to it, so I can throw this up over a ball cap or something. And it's also got a zipper, it just really helps regulate the heat well. I found that merino wool works really well for me, but it is on the pricier side. First Light makes great products and they support BHA as well as some other conservation organizations. So I personally like to support them. But there's Smart Wool, Icebreaker, all sorts of stuff. But I found that it's relatively all kind of the same price. So I tend to stick with First Light stuff. Since it's firearm season, it's probably a good idea to wear an orange hat. It probably helps that this is a backcountry hunters and anglers hat too. If it's a little chilly, I'll throw, just kind of this is just a Carhartt hat or something. I'll throw that over my ball cap maybe. A good rule of thumb that I do this whether I'm snowshoeing, cross-country skiing, whatever, going for a hike when it's cold. If you are at the trailhead, your vehicle, whatever, and you're comfortable, you're going to sweat. So I like to be just chilly enough. And in any temperature, this is my go-to, because if I'm a little cold, I'll just walk a little faster, something like that. If you're savvy in the outdoors, I think you probably understand what I'm getting at. As far as gloves, I have probably the worst blood circulation in my hands of anyone I know. So I'm going to try these out this year for walking in. This is just a really thick insulated leather glove. When you're walking in the morning, finger dexterity isn't a huge deal. I'm not worried about pulling the trigger or anything because it's dark. So I'm worried about my hands getting cold. This is the scent product that I mentioned earlier and the scent discs that I'll wear sometimes. So in getting into the stand, you want to have a pack that can carry all your stuff. This is an old North Face backpack that I've probably had since I was like 12 years old. And it did the job for a long time, carrying anything I need, food, water, other gear, clothing, whatever. But I mentioned in my intro that I lived in Idaho for a little bit, and I bought an XO mountain gear pack for elk hunting and mule deer hunting and packing meat and everything. And I actually found that it works perfectly. It can be a little obnoxious how big it is, but with the amount of stuff that I like to take with me to regulate my temperature and be comfortable in the woods, it works pretty well. And some stuff that I'll pack in with me and actually put on once I get to the stand is all this stuff over here. This is a pair of, just Gore-Tex insulated pants that I hate walking in because I sweat like crazy. So I put them on when I get there. Another good tip that I found, because my feet are similar to my hands, my feet sweat and then they get really cold. So when I get to the stand, I switch out my lighter weight sock for a heavier sock, and that seems to help keep my feet a little warmer. I was talking about some other gear that might have been a little pricier, but this is an old school, just 100% wool flannel shirt that I wear that was, given to me. And I've actually found some others at like garage sales, or you can even find these at like Goodwill and stuff, and they get the job done still. Super warm. I'll throw that on as my next layer. And if it's pretty cold, I really like to wear like a puffy jacket. You see these, all the Patagonia, Columbia, whatever. This is a First Light Uncompahgre puffy that I really like. Not really super windproof, so I will throw a windproof layer on top of that. Sorry, I got a reminder that popped up on my phone. This is just like a fleece zip-up jacket that's pretty simple, but like I said, it's windproof, so I really like it. And this is all the stuff that I wore last year, and I stayed pretty warm and was able to stay in the tree for a long time, and that's pretty important, when you're out there and you want to be successful, I think. Grandpa's old blaze orange goose down vest, wear that over top for safety and a little extra layer of warmth. When I'm hiking in, I'll actually kind of attach it to my pack so that people can see me while I'm hiking in, because if I wear my pack over that, you really can't see it that well. So all this stuff I'm wearing in the stand, including a hand muff, and I'll actually switch out those warmer gloves for a thinner glove, better dexterity, whether I'm bow hunting and using a release, or I want to get my finger in the trigger and take the safety off, just better dexterity all around. And then I'll throw some hand warmers in that hand muff too. And that works really well, I think, as far as regulating my temperature. I want to talk about boots now. So this is a muck boot. This is their Arctic Pro. That's supposed to be really warm, but like I said, my feet just can't seem to stay warm. I'll wear these boots though if I'm sitting in a ground blind or in a tree stand. If I'm going to be sitting for a while, these are the boots I want to wear. And to help stay even warmer, I bought these a couple years ago. I think they're Hot Mocks or something, but they're essentially just like a bootie that goes over your boot, and you can put hand warmers or something in them to just help stay a little warmer. This is a Kenetrek, actually a mountain boot. It's insulated. It has less insulation than the muck boot. So I like to wear these if I'm going to do a lot of walking. So, if you can't find that spot, that Krista was talking about, but of a good area and want to do some still hunting, these are probably a good option for you. And I think Glenn is going to talk about still hunting a little bit later. Just some extra gear that I bring too. So always have a set of binos with me, and I really like having them in a case as well for a couple reasons. So the case has a couple extra pockets. I can fit some cartridges over here. I shoot a thumb release, so I can actually, that fits really nicely in this other pocket as well. It's really quiet and magnetic, you know, and holds my binos pretty well. You know, I can put my tags in here, a lighter, anything extra that you think you might need and not really have a good pocket for. Maybe it can go there. Rangefinder. When I get to a spot, I think it's a great idea to look for a couple like pretty obvious features. You know, you see a big rock out there or a down tree or something, and range it, you know, and so that, okay, that down tree is 75 yards, the big rock is 30, you know, the red maple is 150 yards or something. So that way you don't have to be moving around too much when an animal's coming in. You already have those preset ranges. Other than that, carry some calls with me during deer season. I like to have paracord with me. I feel like you can always find something to use it for. If nothing else, it makes a great pull-up rope to pull up all this gear into the stand and your weapon so you're safe. I carry a headlamp with me when I'm going in the mornings. I really like one with a red light on it. Helps preserve your night vision. After that, I'll bring sometimes an extra flashlight too. You know, if you got your buddies helping you track or something, when it's dark out, an extra flashlight goes a long way. Next, this is kind of my kill kit, I guess you'd call it. So you have your tags with you. You're always going to have your tags and license and back tag, you know, to be legal. If you are successful, it's nice to have some of this stuff. I like to carry a fixed blade knife with me. Shout out Dan Den Knives. I like a fixed blade because it helps crack ribs a little bit harder if you know, if you want to really open up the rib cage of a deer. This is a Havalon knife with that takes replaceable blades, but I found that over the years I've kind of snapped a few of them. It's not as strong, so that's why I like to bring both. I'll bring a sharpener, just a quick little sharpener for the fixed blade, extra knives for the Havalon, a pen for my tags, and something to attach the tag to the animal. And over the years, I've used latex gloves. They'll make these game cleaning kits. A couple companies make them. But when you have a wife who's a veterinarian, sometimes you get your hands on latex gloves a little easier. So since we're talking about some sharp things and stuff, I think it's probably a good idea to bring a first aid kit as well. Most of the stuff that you would be dealing with, I mean, I seem to still cut myself every year and stuff. So probably to have some tape, gauze, you know, ace bandage, band-aid, stuff like that is probably a good idea when dealing with all this. Other than that, a couple other things I like to bring with me. I always have my phone with me, you know, and so it obviously doubles as a camera. You know, you can take pictures. Flip my phone around here real quick. You know, you can take pictures from your tree stand. Obviously, if you're successful, you know, it's nice to have those pictures forever too. And let's be real. I mean, sometimes it gets boring out there. You know, you got to check your Instagram feed or you play some games or something to break the monotony sometimes of sitting for very long, because at the end of the day, you want to just be comfortable and sit in your stand long enough to just better the odds of being successful. And if you can outweight some of these other hunters that might be leaving or coming back after lunch or getting cold, sometimes they can push deer to you too. So I know that was all kind of whitetail based and stuff. So yeah, that's pretty much all I bring, other than if I'm in a tree stand, I also make sure I have a harness on me. But I think Billy is going to be talking to you guys a little bit more about that. So with all that being said, I'll hand it over to Mr. Harvey, and he'll pert near talk to you about some tree stand stuff.
Way to go, Ted. You nailed it. That was awesome. Everybody's fired up about gear now, so they're going to listen to me yammer. On the cell phone discussion, that was one of the things I wanted to bring up quick, because I think everybody realizes that when we get in the tree, we want to sit on our phones and look at stuff. So I don't hear anybody ever talk about this, but I have an external battery pack that's mounted to my phone at all times. I can get 2 or 3 charges out of this. So that has been clutch for me over the last 3-4 years. I use that. And then also make sure that you keep your phone in an interior pocket, not in an exterior pocket, because everybody gets cold phone and your battery will die. So that's a couple little tips there for you for your cell phone use in the tree stand. So
if you're bringing extra batteries though, Billy, how much are you using your phone?
A lot. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's all for business. It's all business.
Sure. Yep.
Nope. No pleasure. Yeah. Yep. All right, Krista, do you wanna go live with the? Jesus, my brother. I
I'm
hope
bringing
nobody, I hope
that up.
nobody can see.
I'm
what-
bringing that up right now, but I'm going to say, let's do real quickly while I'm bringing that up, our third poll for the night, which is how experienced are you as a hunter? Do we have the results of that? Nice. All right. So most people would say 37% of people said 1 to 3 years. And we have 32% people saying they're total newbies. That's cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah. All right. Let's go on with the show here. I'm bringing it up right now for you, Billy.
Okay. All right.
All right.
Gonna hit.
Take it away.
All right, cool. So I'm gonna kind of cover some of the most common types of tree stands. There may be some out there that I'm not aware of, but these are the ones that came to my mind. And so we're gonna kind of hit on all these types and then talk about a little bit about safety, which is very important. So you can go to the next slide. All right. So my old man, Big Willie, always says safety is no accident. So I was putting this presentation together and I got done putting everything together about tree stands and I didn't talk at all about safety. So first and foremost, if you're going to be using a tree stand of any kind, you very seriously need to look into purchasing a harness. If you buy a tree stand, I think almost every tree stand on the market now comes with just a kind of a mesh webbing harness that you can use. But I put a picture up here on the screen of the harness on the right. That's the harness I use if I'm not in my tree saddle. And it's very lightweight, minimalist, comfortable. I think that you can find them on sale, but you can get that for anywhere around 60 to 70 bucks. There's a lot in that price range out there on the market. So they're awesome. You can wear them under your clothes. A lot of hunting clothing actually has a hole in the back, right in the middle. So you can run that lifeline out the back and hook it to the tree. So make sure you're using that. Use a lineman's rope if you can when you're climbing. That is, if you look at one of the harness that's on the picture on the right, there's actually a little belt that's on these harnesses that will loop around the tree and will hook on to, sorry, my brother is sending me messages that are really distracting. Stop it, Jim. It's enough. So the, lineman's rope is important when you're climbing. So that way you are attached to the tree at all times and being as safe as possible. And the last thing I would say is practice before you get into the woods. Go out in a tree in the backyard. Don't let the first time you go up a tree be when you're in the woods in the dark trying to figure out how to do all this stuff and go up the tree. So if it doesn't matter if it's a telephone pole or if it's a tree in your backyard and you're only getting 10 feet off the ground, practice is a good thing. And I guess the last thing on safety, when you go to climb up the tree, think about how you're going to get your stuff up with you. So for me personally, I carry a backpack all the time when I'm hunting. So I typically will strap my weapon to my backpack. If you're carrying a gun, you do not want to climb with your gun loaded. So you need to make sure you have all the rounds out of the weapon as you're climbing up the tree. If you have a bow and arrow, obviously you wouldn't have an arrow knocked. Maybe that's not obvious. So you do not want to have an arrow knocked when you're climbing. And try to keep everything as tight as you can if it's on you physically. If you're going to pull it up, make sure you're using a rope that you either have a clip on it or you do tie a secure knot, because the worst thing that can happen is that you drop your weapon 5 feet off the ground or maybe even 15 feet off the ground and your hunt could be over before it even starts. So make sure you're thinking about those sort of things. Me personally, I just have a piece of 550 paracord that I carry that's about 20 feet long. So I use that for a couple reasons. I don't really want to be any more than 20 feet up in the tree. So that's kind of my limit. If I'm getting up to the top and have my bow or my gun on the ground and my rope is starting to get taut, I know I'm high enough. I need to stop right there. So those are a few things safety wise to think about. that's the most important part. Most accidents when hunting in a tree happen when you're going up or coming down. So just keep that stuff in mind. All right, so we're talking a lot about public land here, so I think it's important that we all look into the regulations about how tree stands and ground blinds work and what you're allowed to do on public land. So I did a quick little look, but that does not replace you doing the same. So I would encourage you to take a look at either the online version of the hunting and trapping journal, or go online. You can either get a hard copy or go online and look at that. Excuse me. On public land, you can not remove, cut, or willfully damage or destroy any living vegetation of any kind. That means cutting off shooting lanes. That means screwing steps into trees. That means screwing bow hooks into trees. So you need to be thinking about that before you hit the woods, about how you're going to get up the tree, how you're going to have your stuff hang from the tree, things of that nature. You're not allowed to construct or place any permanent structure, blind, stand, platform, etc., nails, anything into a tree. You cannot leave your stand out there overnight. So you should plan on going in with your stand and coming out with your stand. And then lastly, yeah, make sure you review the regulations of the land you are hunting on. All right, so first we're going to talk about portables. So this is just this picture here is just an example of what a portable tree stand looks like. This is pretty common. There are other variations out there in the market about how they attach to the tree, but typically you will see a stand that has a folding platform with a folding seat and has a couple straps that you would put, actual ratchet straps that you would put around the tree. So this sort of setup, you will need some sort of device to climb the tree. So I have two different types of climbing sticks that you will usually see. If you are hunting public land, likely you will not want to use the one on the right, because those can be 10 to 15 foot sections, and you don't want to be putting those on your back and carrying them in every day as you go in. So the climbing sticks that are on the smaller tree there with the 4 sticks, those are called climbing sticks. You can purchase them all over the place. Ooh, nice pointer. Good stuff. So you can, I think those are called Muddy Pro sticks. They've been around for several years. They're kind of a staple in the industry. But they stack nicely together. There's a lot of really cool stuff out there. A lot of great content on YouTube and other places. So if you're trying to figure out your setup, those are called climbing sticks. So if you're trying to figure out what you want to use, you can search that. But if you're going to go into the woods and use a portable, you will be needing the stand, and you will be needing some sort of device to climb up the tree. All right, so the next one is a climbing tree stand. It is honestly one of my favorites. If you're going to have a spot where you want to sit for a long time, there's probably no more comfortable stand out there than a climbing tree stand. This one here that's shown is a Summit. It's made by Summit. I think it's the Viper. And I have that ladder stand, actually just lent it to a buddy so he could get started in hunting out of that, Mr. Jeff Jones. So he'll be using that this year. But this thing and climbing tree stands are awesome. Probably one of the only downfalls is that you really need to find the right tree to use. So you're going to be almost hunting a tree just as much as you're hunting a spot. I heard somebody say it that way, and it kind of made perfect sense to me, that you're going to be looking for a straight tree that does not change a ton in the size of the tree. So you want we call it like a pole tree. And you don't want to have any limbs that you need to worry about that you're going to need to trim or anything like that. So this is a climbing stand. You want to make sure that you always keep the top part of the climbing stand and the bottom part of the climbing stand tied together, because you do not want the bottom to drop out and then not have something to catch it. That can happen as you're climbing, or go back one slide. Yep, that can happen as you are climbing, or it could happen if you're shifting weight or something did not set into the tree very tight. Some climbers are better than others when it comes to how they dig into the tree, as far as the teeth that they have on them. I can say that Summits in particular, they bite very, very well. And if you can sink those teeth into the tree, you can feel very, very comfortable sitting there and knowing that you're not going anywhere. So, all right. The next one is a ladder stand. So back to one of the first slides I hit on, you're not likely going to use this stand when you're going in and out and having to take your stand down each time you go in. But if you are somebody that has private land or has maybe a spot close to the road that you want to hunt, that you may do something like this and it's what you're going to feel comfortable in, this is a very, very safe tree stand. I know my dad over the years has transitioned to wanting to hunt more out of ladder stands and hunt out of portables, climbers, or permanent stands, because he just feels so much more comfortable getting to the tree, climbing up a ladder, sitting down and putting that shooting rail down. So these are great for long-term setups and very comfortable and safe to hunt out of. All right, so this is a tree saddle. So right now, this is all the buzz and all the hype out there in the hunting market is around mobile hunting and saddle hunting, which is perfect for a public land hunter, because you, as we talked about, you need to go in with your stuff, find a tree, go up it, not have to make any, manipulations to the vegetation, anything like that. And also you need to bring your stuff out with you. So there's a lot of setups out there, and you can totally geek out on the gear end of things with the saddle, but you can have an entire setup that you go to a tree with that is anywhere from 10 to 15 pounds, which is what a lot of portable tree stands will weigh. So right now, as I said, these are very, very popular. You can find a ton of information on YouTube, Instagram, any of the social media. Tethered is the brand that I personally run. I have the Tethered saddle. I used that all season last year. Loved it. I got some Timber Ninja climbing sticks this year I have 3 sticks and they weigh under 5 pounds for 3 sticks. So all together with my platform, I am getting to the tree in under 10 pounds. So that's pretty impressive there. So it's very mobile. It's very safe. You're always connected to the tree because you are either climbing with a lineman's belt hooked to the tree, or when you get to your platform, you're putting your actual tether to the tree above you and clipping in with your belt, and you are locked in. So regardless of what happens, you can feel extremely safe as you're up in the tree. And these are, like I said, ideal for public land. And I guess lastly, when it comes to picking a tree, you can get into a spot where, like Krista talked about, finding hot sign. A lot of times you'll find that hot sign in bedding areas, really thick areas where you can't get too high off the ground, or there's not a lot of very big trees. A tree saddle will allow you can get in a tree the size of your leg, and you can get up in it 5-10 feet off the ground and use that tree as cover, compared to trying to hunt with a portable or a climber where you're trying to find that ideal tree where you're going to be really sticking out and being obvious. The tree saddle is a fantastic option if you're going to be mobile and you want to be able to get in tight to deer or whatever you're chasing. So permanent stands. So these have a special place in my heart. These are not something you can obviously do on public land. You cannot, you're breaking like every law in the book by doing what this happy family's doing right here. But if you have a piece of private land, a permanent tree stand is a great way to get started. It's inexpensive. You can build it yourself. You don't have to do anything. You can use the spare wood you have at your camp or at your house. This is how my family always hunted up at our camp. It's a riot to go through the woods, and you may find when you're walking around the piece of property you're hunting, even on public land that may have been owned by someone prior, you will find old remnants of permanent tree stands. So I bring that up because that's something you should be paying attention to. If you're hunting public land and you see an old tree stand that was made out of wood, there's stuff that happened there, and there's a reason why that person put that tree stand there. So I'm always very observant of that, and I've become more aware of those things over the last few years as I'm walking around and trying to figure out where to hunt here. You might see the remnants of something like this, but a lot of good hunts and a lot of good times happen in a permanent tree stand, and they can cost you absolutely nothing. And you can make it as big as you want and as comfortable as you want, and pretty unlimited there. So that's what a permanent tree stand looks like. So I didn't put this in here, so I don't know what this is. What are some other strategies if I don't want to sit in a tree?
That's me, Billy.
That's Uncle Glenn now.
I'm going to pass this over to Crazy Uncle Glenn, but if anybody has any questions about anything else about tree stands or anything of that nature, feel free to dump it in the Facebook or in the Instagram, or not Instagram, the Zoom, and we can address them at the end. So thanks for listening to me yammer on. I'm going to mute and drink my beer.
All right, good job, Billy. Good job there, Billy. Nothing.
We got you, Glenn. You're good. We
Can you
got
hear
you.
me?
Yeah, we got you.
Okay. All right. Hey, good job there. So, if you're kind of like me and you don't really like heights a lot, some other strategies are ground blinds, still hunting, spot and stalk. Sometimes you could even scout with a weapon on these public lands. So, ground blinds, there's several different kind. You can have a pop-up blind. You can have just use the features that you come upon. I know up here in upstate New York, there's a ton of rock walls out there and on a lot of the public lands, and those are good blinds to use. There's a lot of the states doing a lot of cutting, timber harvest. So there's a lot of good downfall there where you could make yourself a little blind if you find some sign, and just you hunt that sign. So if you're out, if you're kind of new to hunting and you're just out and you pick that forest out that you're going to go hunt in, you identify some good spots, you go put boots on the ground and you're out there and you find some sign, then you might want to just look around. If you don't have a tree stand or a saddle with you, you just hunt from the ground. Because I've seen too that, and I don't know if folks think this, but there may be a misconception that deer don't look up, but they do. You can be sitting in that tree stand and they're looking up a lot of times. So, just some of the considerations, if you're setting up a ground blind, just kind of make sure you have a good backdrop, to kind of break your silhouette, break your outline, so the deer can't see you. The pop-up blinds are good. They're pretty portable, but one of the things that the cons about them, or things that I don't like, is they're kind of claustrophobic a little bit, and they really restrict your view a lot. So it's kind of nice in the rain, but other than that, it's kind of I really don't gear toward them. So ground blinds, they can be anything from a rock wall to a down tree, or you can just find you some old dead limbs or something and make your own blind up. So
Hey, Glenn,
slide.
real quick,
Yeah.
you mentioned that ground blinds can be constricting. I was just thinking, for any archery hunters out there too, depending on the ground blind, it might not just be as constricting sitting there, but you want to be aware of how much room you have when you draw back, or even if you have a rifle too. So just wanted to throw that in there.
Yep, you bet. Good point, Ted. Thanks. So you find your spot, and so you're sitting, you're sitting waiting for the deer to come by. Like Ted said, he brought up some good points. One of the key things about getting out there, especially late season, is being comfortable. And so make sure you're comfortable, make sure you got some stuff to pass the time away, and but always be paying attention, because you don't never know when that deer is going to come strolling by. And then and as we get into next week, you'll talk about taking the shot, and there's a whole lot of things that happen in about 3 seconds. So so then still hunting, folks may think that that's you're sitting still while hunting, but it's not. It's more of you're kind of walking along, scouting, looking, and kind of my rule of thumb is if you think you're going slow enough, then slow down. I usually take 2 or 3 steps or 5 steps or so, and then just look and really, really look. Use your binoculars and look. Like I told my dad, I said, you got to look through the forest, look through the trees with your binoculars, and that's a really good tool to have, because they really bring out a lot of good stuff. And then and scouting with a weapon, if you don't have the time to go out and do a lot of preseason scouting, there's a lot of public land. You can be scouting, and you'll find the sign, you'll find the trails, you'll find those rubs, and so that's and when you find that, then that's a good sign. And so just take advantage of it and stop and get set up and wait a while. Let's see. Next. So wildlife observation. So one thing I like to do when I'm sitting in the tree stand is I like to observe wildlife. You know, in DEC, they've got kind of a citizen science thing going on where you can, you know, they're wanting folks to report grouse numbers or turkey numbers and stuff like that. So there's opportunities where you could also become, you know, part of the, you know, of the wildlife management for New York State. Now this here, I don't know if this video will show or not, but it's
try and I'm gonna try and exit the full screen mode and
Okay.
see if I can't get it to play.
Turn off your
that
pointer.
way. What's that?
Turn off your pointer. See if that helps.
It wasn't. I don't think.
Oh, you didn't have it on.
Issue before. Just give my poor computer a moment here. It seems to be wanting to.
So what?
Because this is a really cool video.
Yeah, now I know it's real. You know, it's the standard, real blurry video only for like a couple seconds, but it's not a Bigfoot, a Sasquatch.
Oh no! It doesn't seem to be letting me play it right now, which is a bummer because I checked this all.
I call it a ring-tailed Maine Coon cat. So that's you can look that up if you want. Yeah. So yeah, I think it's a good opportunity to you know, to help DEC make some good management decisions when it comes to hunting regulations and such. Wildlife observation. So just make sure you got your binoculars with you. Always be listening. And you know, if you want to, check it out on DEC's website about becoming a wildlife observer. And then I'll just touch back real quick on trail cams. If you have the opportunity to put trail cams out, they can be real beneficial. You know, for one, it gives you inspiration, you know, like the video that we didn't get to see of that buck making a scrape. It's like, it's, you know, when you go out and you check your camera, it just gives you that inspiration. All right, yeah, there's something here. You know, you might go out for days and not see nothing, but just by seeing that one video or that one picture, it'll give you the inspiration. So if you get a chance to get a trail cam set up, I'd encourage you to set one up, and you see all kind of neat stuff out there. And then I think one of the and I don't know if one of the big things I think that could help folks, especially the new hunters, is find you a mentor. I know when I first moved to New York, coming from Florida, it's a whole nother ball game up here hunting. But I love hunting up here. The woods are really nice. But find you a mentor and just learn from them. And mine just happens to be my neighbor, real good friend. He's also in BHA, but he really taught me a lot, and you know, teach you learn good ethics, good wildlife management, and just how to enjoy the experience of the day. You know, because chances are you're not going to kill something every time you go out there, but it's, you know, being out there for the experience and enjoying it, and then at the end, if you get a chance to harvest the animal, well, that's the icing on the cake. I think that's it.
Awesome. Thanks, Glenn.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry, folks, about the videos not playing, but I bet you if you send Glenn a real nice email, he might share those images with you. Those are some videos that from his personal library. So if you really want to know what the Maine Coon cat thing looks like, ask Glenn about that. Real quickly before we get into some Q&A, just want to tell you guys about a couple things. First of all, September is the public land pack out month here with this is for backcountry hunters, anglers across the United States. So we have chapters in almost every state. We have chapters in a bunch of Canadian provinces, and the entire organization is doing this public land pack out, where we will be packing out garbage from public lands. And the idea, you know, normally in a non-COVID year, we would get together and we would do this as a community building event. We would go do it together. It's a little bit tougher now with the restrictions and masks and stuff like that. So what we're doing we're doing this virtually, where you can go pack out a bag of garbage, take a picture, throw it on Instagram, and then use the hashtags Public Land Pack Out, Public Landowner, and New York BHA. And in doing this, you saw on the previous slide that First Light is one of our sponsors for this. They actually are going to kick back, I think it's $5 for each bag of garbage that you pack out. And that's going to go to BHA, and especially if you tag New York BHA, I think that comes back to us, and we're kind of having a little bit of there's a little unofficial contest going on with the various chapters. So get out there and pack out some garbage, tag it with New York BHA so we get the credit for it so we can beat the other chapters. Another thing that I was talking about earlier today is that earlier in our session is that this month we're also having a membership drive for new members who sign up this month. You get this cool free t-shirt for joining. It's $35 for your annual dues. I think that's pretty darn cheap. It's certainly cheaper than a trail camera, cheaper than most things actually in hunting. So if you're a brand new hunter, if you're not a member of BHA yet, even if you are a longtime hunter and you aren't a member of BHA yet, head over to that link and you can sign up, join now, and you get this. I think there's a picture over there of the free t-shirt that you get. It's pretty sweet. I know I was pretty jealous that it's only for new members because I want one of those t-shirts.
Hey, Krista,
Yep.
just real quick, with that membership drive, also you'll be put in for a draw, a chance to win a set of Dan Den custom knives as well.
Those are really sweet, folks.
Yeah.
They're like antler handled and like they're really sweet. They're worth the price of entry right there. And then just real quick before we get to the Q&A, all of us here, our panelists are completely volunteer members with New York BHA. We just are very passionate about hunting, about public land. And I think just about all of us would love to talk your ear off any day about any questions that you may have in terms of getting into hunting. So it's a really great organization. Like I said at the beginning, it meant a lot to me to join at the beginning of my journey, and not being from a hunting background or hunting family, this is where I found a community of people that took the time to answer my questions and help me when I was getting started. So if you're a newbie, that can be a great reason alone to join BHA. But also you get to support our mission of conservation by getting involved. So one other last thing too is that we do have 2 more sessions of this series, the 3rd session and the 4th session, and they are coming up next Thursday and the Thursday after that. So same bat time, same bat channel. You can catch it on Zoom. If you register, you'll get the Zoom link. Or if you are a member of our Facebook group, you can watch it on the Facebook Live in our Facebook group. The replay of this will also be posted. You'll be able to watch the replay in the Facebook group. And in a couple of days, the video will actually go up too on the Backcountry and Hunters and Anglers YouTube channel and under the New York playlist. And so you'll be able to watch this replay, share it with your friends, etc. From YouTube very shortly. All right, and with that, let's get into some questions and answers. I'm going to stop my screen share here, and I'm going to click over to the chat and see what questions that we have in the chat. And then Bill, Glenn, Ted, why don't you guys go ahead and unmute yourselves so when I throw some questions out, you can jump in and answer those. So one of the questions was, when going into public lands, what are some thoughts with the increase of New York hunter safety courses being safe and being a steward of the land?
I think if the question is geared towards more hunters maybe being on public lands and being safe with more numbers out there, I think I mentioned it before. If you see people, just try to be courteous. And if they don't see you, maybe if it's a safe situation, try to make yourself known. Give people enough space. It's squirrel season. squirrel season coincides with deer season, and duck season coincides with both of those. But that doesn't mean that you should try to shoot a squirrel out of the tree right next to somebody who's deer hunting. It's a couple things. It's not safe, and it's just really not courteous. So I think a lot of it, just in my opinion, just kind of comes down to respect. And as far as like stewardship, that kind of goes that way. And certainly, we talked about it with public lands, pack out stuff. So hope that answered your question from my perspective.
Well, and I'd add too on that, Ted, just about, really consider wearing your safety orange. There's some places where it's required. And so make sure you check your regs on that. But having that orange, it really helps a lot. Especially if other hunters are wearing it too. If you're slipping through the woods and you see them, you can just stop and turn around and go the other way. You don't want to mess nobody up. So.
This topic came up a little bit in the discussion on our Facebook group a little bit today, the numbers of people who have taken the course. And one thing that did come up is that a lot of people found the online course way more challenging and in-depth than the in-person course. So just in case there's this idea that like, okay, nobody's actually checked your gun safety, like it sounds like New York has thought about that, and they didn't take this lightly, and they're not just sending a bunch of people who are going to be unsafe like out into the woods. So that's something to consider too.
Yeah.
Did you have something to add, Bill?
Yeah, it was just a couple things. I mean, I've been in a few situations, especially here in New York, as the last 2 years on opening day, I've hunted a piece of property it's nature conservancy, but it's got people that are hunting it that shouldn't be hunting it. So it's essentially a public land experience. I have not tried to hide myself in those situations. So if you're sitting in a tree stand and you have somebody come in on you that maybe shouldn't be there, or if you're hunting on public land and somebody's coming by, don't hide behind a tree. Let yourself be known, wave your arms, make sure your orange is visible, and don't hesitate to whistle. A lot of times, birds whistle in the woods. So we always, as a group, and that's before we had radios and cell phones, we whistled to communicate with each other. So don't hesitate to whistle, make a little noise. It's way better for everybody if you make a little noise. So what if you scare a deer away? Everybody's safe, no accidents happen. And most of the shooting accidents that happen are because people are shooting at things that they really can't identify. So if you are a new hunter out there, you're going to be so excited that first day that when that light is coming up and it's opening day and you haven't been in a situation yet, make sure you identify what you're shooting at. I mean, that's the number one most important thing. And I'm going to speak from my experience. My first opening day, I was out of slugs before my dad was even to his tree stand yet. I was so excited. There was a deer in front of me and I am shooting. So I knew there was a deer in front of me. I'm shooting at it. It was a safe situation, but you are going to be so excited when you get out there that, make sure you try to calm yourself down. And a lot of folks that are watching this, I think there's a lot of like 20 plus old people. When you're real young, you can't control your excitement and your emotions, but just be safe, take a step back and make sure you know what exactly is going on in front of you.
Yeah, never shoot at sound. Make yourself visible, and never shoot at sound.
Yep. Good question.
And the next question that came in was that I've been told that there's been a huge increase of how many people took hunter safety online this year. Do you guys know how that has translated into the number of tags purchased? So I know the answer. Do you guys know the answer to this?
Yeah, it's all over social media today.
Yeah.
I don't know. I hope it's a lot.
Yeah.
It was the day one sales when it opened on August 10th was like 3 times what day one sales was last year. And again, that same article that I was referencing, Mike Palopoulos, who is one of our board members, posted that in the New York Backcountry Hunters and Anglers Facebook group. And it actually gives, like, if you want the exact numbers of who bought, how many sales happened, which day, and through August and stuff like that. That information is in that article. That's really easy to get to in our Facebook group. So yeah, there's a lot more people who are paying into the system. I personally welcome that, since that's where most of the money comes from for wildlife conservation, for management of wildlands. And this is actually something that as a community, hunters have been working towards for a long time, is getting more people to buy into the system so that we have conservation, money for conservation. So I think that's fantastic.
Yeah, and just think if all those people signed on to a conservation group like BHA, for example, and because numbers count, and and the politicians, the legislators, they listen to the people, and if you got a big enough voice, they're going to listen. So,
did you have something, Ted?
No, I was just kind of agreeing with everything.
I was going to throw a couple tips out there, because it's going to be super interesting for all of us to see what the volume of people actually is on public land if it does increase that much. I think everybody's impression is like, oh my God, there's 42,000 new hunters. They're all going to be on public land. It could be a quarter of that could be on public land spread across this entire state. So if you're out there, don't freak out that there's all these new people coming in. There's deer living everywhere. So just because there's more hunters and there's more people hunting an area does not mean that the deer are not going to be there if that's what you're after. So pay attention to where other people are hunting. And if you see a pile of trucks parked at this parking lot, they're all going to park. And the hip thing is to go as far as you can away from that parking spot. So sometimes the best hunting spot might be within eyesight of that parking area, because deer are going to know this is where the threat's coming from. So we are going to stay right here, watch them walk by, because that's where they're going. So be aware of where people are, because where they are, the deer aren't going to be, and you can find those little honey holes where you can have an area all to yourself.
and kind of on that, if you go out early in the morning and you're sitting, a lot of folks will kind of go back to camp for lunch, and that's the best time to be sitting in your stand.
Yeah. Either when they come out for lunch or when they're heading back in, Glenn. It's still, that's right. You can sometimes get both.
That's right.
Awesome. Cool. One other question for you guys. I'm curious what you all have to say to this. So Rob says, I saw a trail cam next to a ground blind on public lands that I want to hunt near this year. Is it weird if I put my cell number near the camera to see his schedule of when he's going to hunt?
I don't think it's weird.
I
think it's a good idea.
Maybe it's a chick. Maybe it's a match made in heaven. You never know.
Yeah, actually, I would stand in front of the camera with a sign, that says my name and phone number.
Call me.
Yeah, right. No, seriously,
Verified.
I think it's a good idea. Worst thing that happens is, maybe he thinks you're weird and doesn't give you a call to talk about stuff, but I don't know. Yeah. Maybe find a good hunting buddy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. When I was rock climbing a lot, people used to complain about how crowded the cliffs were getting, and it was like everybody wanted to complain about everybody else. Oh, those people are making it crowded. But if you make friends with those people, then it doesn't seem as crowded because you're now out with your friends. So, there might be a lot more hunters out there this year, but I see that as an opportunity to, increase your community, make friends with people, make connections with people. Hunting is by nature sort of a lonely sport, but I think as humans, we do have a need to connect with people. And so finding folks that you can connect with through hunting can be a really powerful thing. So I would totally reach out to that guy. It might be weird if I danced on the camera, though.
Yeah. It's a weird boundary there, isn't it?
Right.
Yeah.
You make me like, what is this girl doing on my trail cam? All right. Did anybody else have any other questions they wanted to drop in the chat?
I think I saw Brian. I was gonna say, I saw Brian Bird asked about a weight limit for saddle hunting. And I don't believe there is. I won't speak for the manufacturers, but big boys can get in tree saddles. So I would recommend it. If you're interested in it, I would not shy away from it. And you can tree saddle hunt and use a tree stand platform as your platform. So I think it's a great way to hunt and a very safe way to hunt. So don't shy away, Brian. And you're not that big. I've seen you. You're not that big guy.
If we don't have any other questions, I just wanted to add something. You know, I talked about some gear, and, you know, Billy talked about tree stands, all of which can kind of be expensive. You know, keep in mind, a lot of the stuff that I was showing, I've accumulated over, I don't know, probably like 15 years worth of hunting. And really, like I said in my presentation, it's really just stuff that I use that allows me to be comfortable out there. If you're comfortable with being uncomfortable, the minimum you need to get out there and go hunting is a weapon, tags, and a spot to go. So don't let any of this stuff stop you. Don't let tree saddles or merino wool. Get out there and enjoy the woods and your experience.
Yep.
And to piggyback on that, you're going to learn the most from actually being in the woods.
Yeah.
So, you know, if you're using the stuff and not having the right stuff as the barrier to getting in the woods, you're actually not going to learn anything. You're going to actually, you know, retard your learning curve. So like Ted said, just get out there with whatever you have and learn from it.
There you go. Blue jeans and Carhartts, my man.
That's right.
I don't know if anybody else saw it, but Greg did put earlier, like way earlier in the presentation, about an app that he uses called Windy.
Yeah, I just checked that out. Thing's awesome.
Yeah.
I did see that.
I'm gonna download that later. Check that out. So pro tip for any newbie hunters out there, if you're not quite sure what's going on with the wind, check your Windy app. Download that.
I had a couple things to throw in, like off of what Ted was talking about with gear. There's a ton of stuff out there, and there's a ton of companies out there, and a ton of places that, especially with with Amazon and things like that. But one of the things that I've become more in tune with, especially being part of BHA, is understanding what companies do to support the hunting industry and to support conservation. So I make a lot of my purchases thinking about who the companies are and what do they stand for. And I think that's something that a lot of us can relate to in our personal lives. You know, when I buy something, I want it to be from a company that I respect, how they treat their people, how they produce their products, things like that. So think about that. And if you have questions, I know any of us on here, any of us at BHA, we all naturally turn into gear junkies. Everybody kind of knows what's going on in the industry and what's happening. So, think about that. It's the big thing for me.
Totally. Anybody else? Last chance at questions. If anybody has any. Do we have any that have come in on the Facebook live feed that we need to address?
Is there anybody?
No, we covered it all. Yep.
Is there anybody on the Zoom that has anything to say? Or are we not allowed to do that?
Oh, you can totally do it. Just open up. If anyone
Does anybody want to know what beer Bill is drinking? Oh, really?
Nectar of the gods, people.
This whole thing about I want to support companies that are in line with my
they are
goal.
Bush Light's freaking for farmers and hunters. They do camel cans.
That's true. And
lattes, right?
Bush is big into wetland conservation.
Yeah, don't come at me with that, Krista.
They're not
That's
big into
unbelievable.
good beer, but
Well, see, I'm a big Westkill fan, and I know Westkill Brewing are big BHA supporters here in New York. So, I gotta shout out to my boy Mike Barcone at Westkill.
Absolutely.
Yeah, good bunch down there.
Yeah, totally.
Mountain Brew.
I loved too how somehow, like, I don't know if you timed that on purpose, Bill, but like as soon as we went live, the first thing you heard was you popping the top.
Yeah, it was coordinated. I knew it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. Now they're all gonna think we're alcoholics.
Well, am I gonna fake this?
Right?
Yeah.
Oh gosh. Okay, we just in this question. I'm a newbie, and they want to know what the advantage is of tree stands. Just concealment, or what are the other advantages of hunting from a tree stand?
I guess I'll jump on this right off the bat. I mean, there's several benefits, but concealment's a big one. Obviously, you're getting up a little bit above eye level. You can get up above vegetation. So depending on where you are, you can, if you're in a very thick area, sometimes getting high, or if you're in hemlocks or pine trees, getting up in a tree is going to actually hurt your ability to see and to have an opportunity to shoot something. So probably the biggest advantage is concealment, visibility in the right environment. And then, once you're up off the ground, a lot of times your scent will be drifting up or drifting away based off of where the animals are typically coming from. So as you're setting up your tree stand, you want to be aware of where you expect the deer to be. And like Chris had talked about with the wind, you would want the wind blowing away from where you expect the deer to be coming from, or where you expect your shot to be presenting itself, so that your wind is actually blowing completely out of the way. So those are some of the advantages of hunting out of a tree stand, I would say.
Uh-oh. Did we lose Ted?
He just came back.
Ah, all right. Glenn, did you want to say anything about the advantages?
Yeah,
of
I was.
hunting?
Yeah, I agree with Billy on that.
So I think I'm back.
You're breaking up, Ted. No, I agree with Billy there. The big advantage of a tree stand is, getting the elevation, getting above, and you can really see what's going on in your surroundings. 360.
And
but and that said, there's of the deer that I've killed, probably half have been from a tree stand and half not. So it just depends. If it's too windy, I'm not getting in a tree stand. If it's 15-mile-an-hour wind or something, that's about my limit on getting in a tree stand. So
I've had some days that felt like being in a boat.
Yeah.
With the wind.
I'll throw another benefit in there that I just thought about, Glenn, is that safety. Hunting out of a tree stand, your shots depend. I mean, if you're on a side hill, you might be shooting uphill, but 90% of the time, if you're hunting in a tree stand, you're going to be shooting to the ground. So that's a good safety factor. If you're hunting on public lands, you're not shooting and having a potential of a slug or a rifle bullet to go hundreds and hundreds of yards. It's just going straight into the ground. So that's a good benefit too.
Yeah, that's true.
Also, I feel like me being up high is less likely to be shot at because nobody's shooting upward. So both my projectile goes towards the ground as well as nobody else's projectile goes upward towards the tree. So I always feel safer in my tree stand than I do hunting from the ground. Also, I have an unnatural fear of bears eating me, so I somehow feel safer in my tree stand from them, even though they could climb the tree if they really wanted to.
Cover yourself in Fox Urine and you won't have to worry about that.
What's that? Put the Fox Urine on?
Yeah.
That's actually a good tip. I was actually just
fantastic tip.
What's it? Lenny LaRue, the guy who's like the whitetail whisperer. He recommended that. I was like, I'm gonna try that this year. I'll smell like dookie, but I was like, how do I find the PC way of saying this? Anyhow, all right. Any last contributions, folks, before we wrap up for tonight? No? Going once? Going twice? Awesome. All right. Thank you, BLM. Oh, somebody just asked what BLM means. Well, BLM depends on your frame of reference. It either means Black Lives Matter or it means Bureau of Land Management. I'm assuming because we're talking about hunting, Bureau of Land Management.
Yeah.
I don't think we have any BLM land in New York, do we?
No.
I don't think so.
No, there's only like one national forest, I think, too. I think that's like the only
Finger Lakes,
yeah.
Finger Lakes National Forest, and there's several national wildlife refuges.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
there's wild
Montezuma,
refuge, but then there's also a couple. What are they? There's a couple, like the Erie Canal is like a heritage corridor, or I can't remember what it is, but it's run by the
Park Service,
Fish and Wildlife Department, I think.
U.S. Park Service.
Park Service, right?
Yeah.
Sorry.
And they don't. A lot of the Park Service don't allow hunting. Very few. So
Awesome. All right, guys. Thanks so much for joining us this evening on the second episode of the virtual Learn to Hunt series, brought to you by the New York chapter of Backcountry Hunters and Anglers. Please join us next week for our third session and the week after that for our fourth session. And just a quick reminder that you can find the replay of this session in our Facebook group. The live session will go up there, and then in a few days following, this video will be posted to the National Backcountry and Hunters and Anglers YouTube channel, and look for it specifically under the New York chapter's playlist. All right, so the New York chapter doesn't have their own specific YouTube channel. You would look for that under the national chapter. So thank you so much for joining us. Hope you all stay safe. Good luck this season. Wear your blaze orange and tag us in your pictures of your public land.
Go Buffalo.
Oh gosh. All right. Good night, everybody.
good night. Appreciate it.
Have a good one, guys.
Stay safe.